Sam
he
Harris,
can't
like
practically.
you know who Sam Harris is?
Not well, no.
Okay, well he's I believe he's a neuroscientist, very smart guy, very like of like atheists that are famous for being atheists. He's like right up there with Richard Dawkins.
Famous atheist.
Yeah. What's interesting about him is he's very much seems to believe that there are things that are moral and right and wrong, and that that there are that people should be reprimanded for doing horrible things and whatnot. But he also simultaneously doesn't believe that we have free will, which doesn't make any sense if he's in his position, because if that's the case, then he should be okay with prisoners not going to jail because they didn't have a choice. I mean, like, he doesn't believe that we have free will, and yet he certainly acts like he does believe we do have free will, because otherwise he wouldn't be living his life the way he lives it.
Well, I'm interested in the argument. I don't know much about him, but I think that there is a valid argument as to not having free will. I think that freedom and free will are fundamentally different, and that's not a distinction that's often made. But free will is much different, because I think at any given moment, you can't change your beliefs. You can't change the things that make you who you are. You can't change the fact that 30 minutes from now I'm going to be hungry, or I'm going to need something to drink. I can't change the fact that if I'm thirsty and there's a cup of water there and I know that it's drinkable water, that I'm going to reach over and I'm going to drink it. I don't think that you can change your beliefs at any given moment, but I also don't think that just because we can't change our beliefs and that we maybe don't have free will, that doesn't mean that we can't be punished for our actions. I think that the consequences of our actions are still our responsibility. And
But how are you responsible for anything if you had no choice in doing it?
well, you do and you don't, because I think your previous actions determine what your future actions
Yeah, but you
are
had
going to
no
be
choice to make
eventually.
those previous actions. See, that's one of the things where it's like Sam Harris is an atheist, and he's absolutely right. If there is no God, we have no free will, because then we're just animals reacting to our different impulses and reacting to the world around us, and there's no other third factor or no other factor that's determining what we do. We're just going through life. We think we're aware, but we're not aware. It's an illusion. And I think he's right if there is no God, but the idea of like, if there is a God and we have a thing called a soul, then there's something else in the mix there.
Well, there's something else in the mix, but does it change anything? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, you're still going to be enslaved to your own body and your own mind. And maybe it's just that God knows that you have free will. Like, he's all-knowing, all-powerful. He's like, oh, I know that they have free will. I know what their plan is going to be. But they have free will.
Yeah.
You know? Because a lot of people think that
Well,
if God
the thing
exists...
about God, though, is everybody thinks that he exists on the same timeline. But as far as if there is a God, then he can't exist on the same timeline. Like, I imagine almost like, I mean, if God made everything, the universe and everything, us and all that, then he can't be like us. No. I mean, like, he's by definition apart from us. And so I almost imagine it, and this is probably not even accurate because it's the only thing I can imagine as a human, but God sees my life as a timeline, and he's outside of it. And so he can see over here and see that, oh, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to get married when I'm 30 or something. But right now I'm right here. So God knows what I'm going to be doing here, but he's not making me do anything.
Yeah.
He just has all knowledge of what I'm going to do. It's not like he knows. It's not like he has foreknowledge.
But
if
he's all powerful, then why do you have free will? If he knows what you're going to do and he's all powerful.
What do you mean?
Well, if he knows what you're going to do and he's all powerful, then what makes you think that he's not controlling what you're doing?
Well, but I don't know. But from what the Bible seems to say, it seems to say that he is letting me do what I want to do. He's just observing. And maybe he'll come in and change something every now and then.
Why?
I don't know. I'm not God. I don't know why God would choose to do anything in my life.
See, I've never understood praying in that sense, because if God already knows what you're going to do, he knows what your plan is, why are you praying?
Well, yeah, that's interesting, but it also comes to the thing where it's like, does God also, is there just one timeline, or is there a billion different timelines?
I don't know.
And you sometimes come to a crossroads, and this is all conceptual, no idea if any of it's true. But
Well-
I'm just saying that there are there's interesting arguments to be made as far as like
A very,
when you get to a certain crossroad.
I don't know, a very interesting Hindu man
Mm-hmm.
said, maybe God exists, but he doesn't care about you. Maybe he doesn't know anything about what you're doing and he doesn't care, even if he does. Maybe he made the earth and walked away forever. Maybe. We don't know. And he also said how interesting it is that humans want meaning. How much more complicated is our life because we want meaning versus if we didn't? Like animals, as far as we know, don't care about the meaning of their lives. But the fact that we've made life so easy makes it so that we have time to think about all these things. We have the capability to question why we're here and how much pain that's brought in us as a society.
Yes.
How interesting.
Yes, we it's true. Like we definitely like just from having knowledge, which is actually something I want to read because we're talking about free will. It's a really interesting thing. It comes down to the whole, like, basically I think regarding free will, if anything means anything at all, there has to be. It could be that we don't, but like as I said, like you can't, like if you don't have free will to determine like what you do, then the sentence that's coming out of my mouth right now, I had no choice to, and therefore like I can't. Then therefore I can't. Like there's no more responsibility attributed to me because I can't do anything. But this is interesting. This is an interesting passage regarding. It's a problem because free will. I remember I read a book on like free will in the Bible and stuff.
Yeah.
I got to the end of it and I was like, I still don't know, because sometimes the guy who's making an argument, sometimes it made sense and then he'd rephrase his same argument. I was like, wait, that doesn't sound like the same thing.
Yeah.
And so I still don't know exactly what the Bible even says about free will, because it's clear some things are determined. It's quite clear, but
well, we're all on a part of God's plan, but then it's like, but if we're all part of God's plan, then do we have free will? No, but then they say, well, God gives us free will to make bad decisions, because if he didn't give us free will, we'd all just worship him, and then we would all be aware of God's presence, and then we wouldn't have free will, but we would know that he existed. But in that sense, it's like, well, now what is it? Do we have it or do we not? Because God seems to think that we have it.
Yeah.
He seems to say that we have it.
He punishes people for the choices they make. I mean,
Ooh, that's a good argument.
yeah. I mean, and so it's like it has to work somehow.
We're all part of God's plan, but then we get punished for the things that we do.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's whenever there are phrases like we're all parts of God's plan, I don't even know if that's a verse. I think that may be just something that Christians say.
It has to do with the Bible.
Well, I know that's something that, yeah, but does it literally mean like every single thing we do, like me watching The Office, is like relevant to God's plan? Maybe I as a person am, but is me watching The Office a part of his plan? I don't know.
All-knowing, all-powerful.
But anyways, with this question, I think this poses an interesting challenge for even what we're doing right now.
Okay.
So all possible knowledge then depends on the validity of reasoning. If the feeling of certainty which we express by words like must be and therefore and since is a real perception of how things outside our minds really must be, well and good. But if this certainty is merely a feeling in our own minds and not a genuine insight into realities beyond them, if it merely represents the way our minds happen to work, then we can have no knowledge. Unless human reasoning is valid, no science can be true. It follows that no account of the universe can be true unless that account leaves it possible for our thinking to be a real insight. A theory which explained everything else in the whole universe, but which made it impossible to believe that our thinking was valid, would be utterly out of court. For that theory would itself have been reached by thinking, and if thinking is not valid, that theory would, of course, be itself demolished. It would have destroyed its own credentials. It would be an argument which proved that no argument was sound, a proof that there are no such things as proofs, which is nonsense. Thus, a strict materialism refutes itself for the reason given long ago by Professor Haldane. If my mental processes are determined wholly by the motions of atoms in my brain, I have no reason to suppose that my beliefs are true, and hence I have no reason for supposing that my brain is composed of atoms. You see the thing where it's like, what we're even doing right now, we don't even know if it's real because we don't even know if reasoning is real. And if we don't know that's real, then it's like, that's the real thing. Whenever I listen to Sam Harris, I'm like, well, why are you talking?
Yeah.
Like, why do you think you know things? Why do you think you know things if there is no such thing as free will? And he may be right that we don't, and this may all be nonsense what we're doing, but you can't live a life unless you believe that there's free will. That's why you can. I mean, I guess.
It depends on what you think the meaning or purpose of your life is.
But how can you have a purpose or meaning in your life if you have no choice in it?
It would have to be intrinsic. It would have to be in the way that you react to things, like within yourself, being aware of those things and then saying, you know what, that made me really upset when that happened, but maybe I'm going to do it again. Who knows? You know, you'd have to say, well, it's not up to me, but I guess I'll just do what I can with that and react to it how I will. And maybe it's a part of free will, or maybe it's a part of my growth as a person.
Yeah, but how do you, but like, it comes back to the thing where it's like, you're just a robot. Like, you have no choice in like growing in any, there's no point. It also comes to the question of like, why do people try and spread ideas? Why do people try to help people? Because, you know, you have no choice in what you're doing, and they have no choice in what they're doing. It's almost like, comes to the question, like there's a sect of Christianity called Calvinism. Do you know?
Yeah. Predetermined.
Now, some extreme Calvinists, quite literally, I mean, they essentially believe that there is no free will. In that case, why evangelize? People have no, I mean, you have no choice. You have no way of saving them because it's already predetermined that they're going to either be saved or not saved. And it's like,
how disappointing would that be if you had a child and then there was, he's going to hell?
Yeah.
It's like, what do you even do at that point?
Yeah. It's really a weird subject that no one's ever going to find the answer to.
I know.
Until they're dead, maybe, but
exactly. It's the same thing. It's like, we're only going to know when we're looking back at it.
Well, yeah,
same thing with coronavirus.
Yeah.